Hello everyone, to Forest Focus. Nottingham Forest are back in Europe for the first time in almost 30 years, and as such will need to have 4 homegrown players in their Conference League squad next season. So could one of them be Dale Taylor, the Northern Ireland international striker, who spent almost all his Reds career out on loan to the point none of us know too much about him? So joining me to tell us a little more, it's great to have Charlie from the Progress of the Unity podcast on Wigan Athletic after Dale spent last season there. Charlie, good to see you. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Yes, well, thank you. Very well. Appreciate this. Like I say, we actually don't know too much about Dale Taylor, so we're looking forward to hearing about him. For people who are listening and don't know, he is 21 and he went on loan to Wigan after signing a new 3-year contract with us. So he's contracted till 2027. He's already spent time on loan at Wycombe and Burton, and he's a full international for Northern Ireland as a teenager. So interesting player. He is a striker. 11 goals, 7 assists in 43 League One games last season. And most importantly, he won Wigan's Player of the Season. So I assume you're going to tell me basically he's pretty decent at Hope, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, rightly so. He was player of the season. He was my pick when it came to the player of the season. On our podcast, we all went for 3 different players, but Taylor was my pick. And I think he's been absolutely outstanding. I didn't know too much about him when he was at Burton. And I knew when he was at Wycombe and he scored that fantastic goal in the EFL Trophy final. And then when he came to us, I thought it was I wasn't too sure what to make of the signing because he was very young and we were a team that were crying out for experience. And we brought in the likes of Joe Hugel up top and Dale Taylor, and then a lot of youngsters out on the wings as well. So I was thinking, what direction are we kind of going in? And then Taylor, he didn't actually feature really at all in the first few games of the season. We went with Joe Hugel as a starter. And then Dale Taylor made his debut away at Birmingham City, I believe, at St Andrews, and came on. And as soon as we started to see him play, we were like, well, we might actually have our starting forward in Dale Taylor here. And then he just hit the ground running, and Sean Maloney started giving him more game time, and he just was turned into a phenomenal player. Definitely our player of the season.
What kind of forward is he? Because I don't think he's the biggest when I'm seeing bits of him. Is he a number 9? Is he a kind of a deeper lying striker? Just tell us a bit about his style of play.
Yeah, he's not blessed with height. You're not getting a Haaland or a Chris Wood or somebody like that. I'd say he's about 5'9" ish. So he's not super tall, but I'd say he's more of a deep lying forward. I really liked him in the number 10 role, and throughout the season he was playing alongside Tello Asgard, who was a magnificent attacking midfielder. He's obviously ended up moving on now to Luton Town, but when they played together, they sort of formed a duo. But Tello was the one that was starting to make a few forward runs, and Dale would drop really deep to collect the ball. And his vision for a pass is brilliant. If there's any Forest fans want to just watch a game where the two of them were brilliant together, watch the highlights. It was Wigan Athletic 2, Northampton Town 2. And I was sat in the south end for that, and just behind the goal. And I got an amazing view of the pitch to watch how he played. And Dale Taylor, I think that was the most on it that I saw him. And he's very good in the one-on-ones, but yeah, it's that vision for a pass. So I don't think, I mean, he can get in between the two centre backs and he can make very nice runs and create some space for himself. Like I said, he was not blessed with pace, what he is, but not blessed with height, sorry, but he's blessed with strength as well. He really uses his arms well to push the defenders away and create a bit of space for him. A bit like Dimitar Berbatov at United. Remember, he used to be like that. Not too tall, not too fast, but he had very good strength. So I think Dale is, sort of a 10 crossed with a 9, but can play those positions well.
So, what kind of goals is he scoring? Inside the box, outside the box, headers. What kind of goals does he bang in for you?
All 11 of his goals were inside the box, and I think 3 of them were headers. I know he scored a header against Peterborough, one against, I want to say, Exeter, and then one on the final day of the season. I think it was at Northampton Town again. So yeah, 3 of them headers. But the way he was making those sort of runs forward, he could be playing some more into not so much into the channel, but just on the inside of the box, and he could be fed into, and then he would just create a bit of space and get a shot away. But yeah, all 11 of his goals were inside the box. Some left foot, some right foot, and like I say, some headers as well.
So his football intelligence must be pretty high then from what you've seen.
Yeah, I think it is. And I think that shows as well that he made his senior debut for Northern Ireland as well at such a young age, and he's been in and around that setup. So yeah, a player like Dale Taylor, who's not the quickest, not the tallest, he had to be quite smart, and he definitely was. But I think if you're going to play him with a lot of pace, and we had a lot of rotation in our squad, a lot of wingers were changing, and like I was saying, Tello moved on, so we had to play with a lot of different players. And it was about how does he get the best out of them players, and how do they get the best out of him. So yeah, I think that really matured him mentally when he was playing with us this year.
What formation did you play? Out of curiosity, to see how it tallies up with Forest. What kind of style did Wigan play?
It changed we had a managerial change throughout the season. So at the start of the season, it was more of a 4-2-3-1. And then when Ryan Lowe came in to take over from Maloney, it moved to more of like a 3-5-2. And so he was playing alongside Malise Asamoah, who was a winger, very fit, very fast winger, was converted into a striker because Joe Hugo left us. We brought in Will Goodwin on loan. He got injured. So Taylor was really our last forward standing. And so we had to change him for Malise Asamoah a little bit. But yeah, more of he can play by himself up top in the 4-2-3-1. But usually he likes to have the attacking midfielder like a Tello or whoever you've got. I think Morgan Gibbs-White, is it? You've got?
Yeah.
Yes. If they would say they were playing together in a game, I think you would see them more as like a partnership, like a duo, rather than Gibbs-White sitting all the way back and Taylor all the way forward. But yeah, in that 3-5-2, I think we started to see a lot of good things about Dale Taylor coming out.
What about any kind of holes in his game? He's obviously very young still. Are there any areas that you think he particularly needs to work on?
Yeah, I think even though he's got the strength, if he does come up against a really big centre back, and this is where I think his limitation might be moving up to a Premier League standard straight away. I definitely think he needs a season in the Championship. I know you're needing for homegrown games, maybe in the Conference League. It could probably go and do that, but I don't think you're going to see him starting Premier League games week in, week out. I mean, he's only 21 as well. He's definitely got time on his side, but I think, just getting his intelligence just a little bit stronger for the higher levels. And we saw him play against Fulham as well, and he did very well in that game. But obviously they were playing a sort of a second-rate FA Cup squad. So yeah, I think just sharpening up on intelligence-wise, getting a bit of movement. I know I compared him to a Berbatov style before, but he used to be very good at sort of protecting his space. So if he can do that sort of thing, I think he'll get there. But pace-wise, he's got it, but he struggles a little bit to take on centre-backs one-on-one in very long runs. He needs players around him to work.
You've led into a couple of things I'm going to ask you there, obviously. So if you were pitching him right now going into next season, would you say he's a top-end League One striker, a middling Championship striker, a top Championship striker? Obviously, you say he's not Premier League quality. Where on the league ladder would you be pitching him, do you think?
I'd say mid-range Championship with the potential to be a top-end Championship striker. I think if not next season, definitely the season after. I do think that needs to be his next step. You don't want to throw him in to the deep end too early on in the career, but he was a top-end League One striker. You have to remember, even though he got 11 goals and there's a lot of League One strikers who've got more than them, Wigan as a team, I think we were the lowest scorers in the league last season. And it just came to a lot of the wingers that we had ended up getting injured, and a lot of the squad rotation. We were decimated with injuries. And then we were a very young squad as well. So, I mean, Dale was top for goals, top for assists, top for key passes as well in our team, second for shots on target. So he was the best of a struggling bunch at Wigan. But I think if you put him into, say, that Leyton Orient side or a Charlton side, I think he easily gets very close to 20 goals a season. So I think if you went into a Championship setup with a team who works a little bit more for him and he can get a bit more time on the ball to do things in very good areas, I don't see how he would struggle to get double goals and assists in a Championship season, to be honest.
What about longer term? Obviously, you look a lot younger than me, but you look old enough to maybe have seen some Premier League football back in the Wigan days. So you've seen lots of good players down there, I'm sure. Do you see Premier League potential longer term, like when he's 23, 24? Do you see that in him?
I do. I think that you can get by in the Premier League, no problem, with a lack of height. Like we've seen it, like you're talking about former Wigan players in the Premier League, like Sean Maloney, who we had. He was an attacking midfield across winger sort of player, and he wasn't the tallest at all, but he was a fantastic player for us. We've had a lot of players like that, and I think Dale can do it. And a lot of the interviews that he does, he's very, very mature as well. Like he's only 21, but he really seems to back himself. He really thinks about the long-term future of his game, where he can get better at. He's not a player that's going to get wrapped up in the glitz and glamour being a footballer at all. He seems very, very humble person. So, and he works very hard, and his fitness levels are very good. So I think if it continues on that path, like I say, going through the Championship and then working up, I think by 25, he should be in the Premier League. Absolutely no problem. Maybe with a couple of seasons under his belt at that age.
I just want to hear more from Charlie about life of a Wigan fan, because people who listen to podcasts will know that I'm interested in all this stuff. I really enjoy speaking to John, the Exeter fan, around the FA Cup. So we'll ask Charlie about that shortly. But just for that, a word for the Trent navigation. England games coming up. Saturday 5 p.m. and the Andorra game. You can watch that at the NAV on the big screens, indoor and out. And then if you don't have tickets for the game at the City Ground, England v Senegal, you can watch that one as well. Pre-match interactive quiz with Fothers and all the usual trimmings if you were going to a Forest game. So do check that out. Life of a Wigan fan. It sounds like it's been a sort of tumultuous, almost hellish few years for you, going back over, I don't know how many years. I mean, when were you last in the Premier League? Was it about 10 years ago?
The year we won the FA Cup we got relegated 3 days later. So 2012-13 was our final season in the Premier League after 8 years in there.
How old were you then?
I was in 2013. I'd have been 18 when we left the Premier League.
So were you thinking, this is the life of a football fan or a Wigan fan, we're going to be a Premier League club, and you've had a rude awakening, or did you see this coming and your family had said, actually we weren't so good for a lot of years and this is what it might end up like?
Well, interesting, because I was born in Wigan. I was born in Billinch Hospital and I grew up in Wigan for 8 years. And my granddad was football obsessed. I mean, he's a Manchester City fan, had season tickets, and he used to take me to a lot of the games, but I never really had any connection to City at all. I was just going because I could go to the games. And then when I started to play football and when I really started to get into it, it was my granddad turning around to me and he said, don't even think about becoming a Manchester City fan. You were born in Wigan, you support your local, and that is who you'll support for the rest of your life. I went, okay. And he said, well, good news is they've just been promoted to the Premier League. So you're in for a good few years there. So I thought, oh, great. Okay. So I started going to games and I really started to get behind them. And I mean, obviously the Barclaysman trend was going on. I think it was last year that was going on. And just thinking back to some of the players we had in Zogbia, Franco Di Santo, Roddy Jaeger, Mario Melchior, Emerson Boyce, Ali Al-Habsi, all these players, like, how could you not fall in love with that? And it was such a great experience going through it. And then obviously winning the FA Cup was cherry on the top of the cake. And I know a lot of people say, would you have given up the FA Cup win to stay in the Premier League? No, I really wouldn't. It would be the FA Cup win every single day of the year would be my decision. I think Crystal Palace, would they have preferred to get top 7 to get Europe, or would they prefer to win the FA Cup and get in that way? You're going to win the FA Cup. It's a domestic trophy. It's fantastic to do it. So yeah, then I started to really, really get involved in it. And the championship, when we went down, I loved it. We got into the playoffs where we lost to QPR, and then it just started to unwind very quickly. And the last 10 years have been mad. I think these last 2 seasons are the only 2 in the last 10 years where we've actually had a mid-table finish. We've either won the league, been relegated, or been very, very close to relegation. And I think it was a 2020-21 season. We actually finished just outside the League One relegation spot. So we almost became a League Two side. And then an administration happened, which just came overnight, which none of us expected. And then we got new owners. They came in, sold us the world, and then just stopped the funding and nearly drove us into extinction. But the new owners we got, Mike Danson and his group, they seem to be doing a very good job. I was just saying to you before we got on air, it's the life of a Wigan fan. You're kind of waiting for something to go wrong. So when everything's right, you're a bit suspicious of it. But I think everything is actually fine at this moment in time.
That's good. That's good. I think you're right about the FA Cup. I mean, we've had this conversation on the podcast a lot this season because obviously we were going for Champions League and we were saying, oh, we'd rather Champions League. But then we saw Palace win the FA Cup, and myself and a lot of us revised our opinion and thought you can't really trade that because it's what being a football fan is. And I guess, I mean, would you watch that game with family then and have memories that last a lifetime, I imagine?
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of them days that just every year when it's coming around to May and the date's coming, you just think, oh, it's coming up to whatever anniversary it is that we won the FA Cup, and you get all excited for it again. And I mean, I've got the DVD. I watch that game back regularly. I just stick it on, and even every time I watch it, I'm still nervous, and I'm like, I know the outcome. I know we won the FA Cup, but when City are on the break, you're going. But no, I absolutely, I look back on that game with a lot of fun memories.
Well, Ben Watson was a good player for us as well. He had a good little stint, and he did well for us in midfield. What about the future of Wigan? You referenced whether it was owners from Hong Kong or something ran the club into the ground. I don't know if I'm getting that right or wrong. How does the future look, do you think, in the next couple of seasons, ambitions-wise?
Yeah, we going through the last problem with the ownership. It was a Bahraini group, but they came after the China and Hong Kong ownership, and under the Bahrain administration, Sean Maloney came in and just took a normal job like he thought he was doing, and then all of a sudden he had to save the club, and he was traveling up and down with our sporting director trying to recruit players, just driving up and down the country, and he really had to hold it all together. And I think Sean Maloney is an absolute club legend. The football wasn't fantastic, but he put that much heart and dedication into the club that you've just got to admire him for it. He ended up having to actually sell the club and the idea to our new owner. I mean, our new owner's Wigan born and bred anyway. He's got a lot of involvement in the rugby, but he's a businessman. He needs to be sold a project, and Maloney did very well to sell it to him. Unfortunately, like I was saying, the football wasn't fantastic, and he got dismissed this year. And Ryan Lowe's come in, who's had a very good time with Plymouth Argyle and Bury and Preston North End as well. So he's a manager coming in with a very different style, a very different formation, way of playing, way of man management style. And our new owners, they're actually quite quiet. They don't really communicate all too much, but they've put the infrastructure in now that hopefully we'll start to see progression. And a 15th place last season, it wasn't bad. It wasn't fantastic. Not all the thrills, but we just need to, at this moment in time, consolidate. But I think under Ryan Lowe, if we can get the right players in this season, hopefully we can push into the top 10. I don't think we'll be a playoff side at all. I would like to see that the season after, try and get into the playoffs, and then hopefully work our way back up into the championship. And at that point, who knows where we can go.
I'm guessing you don't think you'll have Dale Taylor back then, from what you were saying.
I would love to. I mean, there was a goal he scored. I can't remember who he scored it against, but he scored a goal and he ran over to the fans, and you can see all the fans and they're all in his face going, one more year. And I would love to have him back. Even if we could sign him on a permanent, he's a player that I would adore to have, but I think he's operating now at a level that's just higher than us, to be honest. And I think, like saying, a championship club, if they do want to go and buy him, I think he's a fantastic addition to have, but he's also a very valuable asset at the moment for a long term as well for Nottingham Forest to keep hold of.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if you'll get anyone else on loan for us. Our loans manager was Chris Brass, who is a Wigan ex-player, isn't he? I think I'm right in saying he's got some kind of connections to you. He worked at Wigan for years, but he's gone. And Owen Coyle's son, Owen Coyle, is now our loans manager. So maybe that changes things. Was Owen Coyle Wigan manager? I feel like this is a trip down memory lane.
Well, we've had so many managers since we've left the Premier League. Yeah, Owen Coyle was there, and your academy manager, Warren Joyce, he used to be our manager as well. And I went to the game in the EFL Trophy last year, which was we played against Nottingham Forest under 21s. I thought they were brilliant, and I know they won the Premier League International Cup, I think.
Yes, they did. Yeah,
is it Leon they beat? But
yeah.
I was really impressed, and I know, is it Jack Perkins in the middle has just gone to Northampton Town?
Yeah, I can't remember if that's his right first name. Yeah, we've got him. We've got Joe Gardner, who was at Lincoln, but I think he was a bit injury hit. Yeah, there's some talent there. We've got a young lad called Zach Abbott who might go out to the championship, who's in the England under 19 squad. I mean, it's not obviously I'm going to sound like a snobby Premier League fan, but it's harder to bring talent through when you're in the Premier League than when we were in the championship, and we had a real production line. So yeah, it's interesting, like Dale Taylor sending him out on loan. He's one who stood out for a couple of years. When we signed him, there was a bit of a buzz about him because we signed quite a few players from Northern Ireland, Aaron Donnelly and Jamie O'Connell, I think, are the other ones. But yeah, I'm really pleased to hear that that he's done so well for you. If people want to check out more of what you do, if we do get a player on loan next season, send one your way. Where can they hear more from you?
Yeah, so on Twitter, it's just at Charlie Keegan or the at Central Wigan, which is obviously my Wigan one. But the podcast I'm on is the Progress of Unity podcast. We're on Spotify, Apple, Buzzsprout, I think, is where Barry hosts it. Barry's the host of it. So yeah, we're on there. So you'll be able to find us on social media.
Lovely stuff. Appreciate that from Charlie. Something different, something I found really interesting about Dale and Wigan as well. If you've enjoyed that, do us a favour, hit like, hit subscribe. Do consider membership or Patreon, or just give us a lovely 5-star review on Apple or Spotify if you would. This will have come out on Thursday or Friday. I'm not sure around transfers and everything. So tomorrow is either with Ari from the Thrillos 7 International Olympiacos podcast, or it's a break for the weekend. So if we don't see you tomorrow, have a good few days, and we shall see you soon.